there will be miracles, like Mordechai and Esther. There will be miracles, like Kalev and Yoshua said, we're going to take these guys. Alo, Na'alek, Yachal, Nuchalal. We're going to get past these guys. How are you going to do it? It's not logical. Amalek will always come with logic. Now, for example, Paro said, well, this is very important. Paro said to Moshe, Miva miyaholchem, right? You can go, finally, but who's going to go? He starts arguing with him, right? And Moshe says, we got to take everybody, even what? Even sonenu ubikar, even the livestock. And Paro finally agrees and says, okay, gam, kasher dibaratim, go. They're arguing over cows. They're literally arguing over cows. How do you understand that? So, what does Paro say to him in the pasuk? He says, Ru'u ki ra'ah neged penechem. It's a bad idea to take all these children and all these people into the wilderness. A very bad idea. Why is it a bad idea? Because there's a mazel named Ra'ah. And that star, that constellation, is waiting for you in the midbar. And what does it symbolize? It symbolizes death and destruction, blood. And you're going to go into the midbar, and you're all going to die. Was Paro right? Yeah. He sure was. He was right partially, right? Because the women and the children, and who knows, perhaps the livestock too, they all survived, right? So, but there was this thing that everybody was going to die. So what did Hashem transform that blood into? Dam Mila. The thing that Yoshua does to the men is that he circumcises them. He gives them a bris milah before they enter Eretz Yisrael, right? And of course, the removal of the milah is the removing of the inner evil of klipat Amalek. Amalek is the klipa, is what's separating us from Hashem. So, therefore, what did Hashem show? Why was Paro wrong? Paro was wrong because Hashem always has a way to take that seemingly insurmountable problem and somehow there'll be a logical explanation if what? If we go through the service of Hashem. Being willing to do a bris milah at whatever age you are is a complete surrender to Hashem in the form of an eved, a oseh, ratzon rabo. That's it. That's what's going to get us through. That particular midah is what defeats Amalek. That's very important. Hashem nisi. Hashem will get us through somehow. Now, what does Mordechai say to Esther? Revach v'hatzala. If it's not you, it's going to be somebody else, because he had perfect emunah that Klal Yisrael must survive. So if Haman gets up, who's Amalek, and says, Jewish people are all dying, same exact thing that Paro says, right? Amalek carries forward some of the role of Paro, because Paro is the arch Golos, right? It includes everything, it includes Amalek too. That's why the first thing they encounter when they leave Paro is Eretz Plishtim, which includes the war of Amalek. That's where Amalek fought them. By the way, Amalek dressed up like who? Amalek dressed up like Canaanim. The minute Aaron dies, Amalek dresses up like Canaanim and comes. Amalek wears many costumes. That's maybe one of the reasons why we wear costumes on Purim, because Amalek will come in any shape or form. He'll come in the person who challenges you to say, where's your God? And then he'll come as the dog that's going to bite you. It's in any form that you want. In the dignified person or in the lowest of people, he's coming to challenge you, to turn you back to an Eved HaMishamesh Es Rabo. That's the only way we survive. That's the only way we survive. Now, the Bnei Yissaschar has a very beautiful explanation about this month of Shvat. Right? We'll talk about Tu B'Shvat next week. All right, but we're not quite up to Tu B'Shvat, right? What's today? Today's only 9? 9. Okay, we got a little bit of time. But he says, what is the month? He goes through every month and explains what is its spiritual essence. I want to read to you what he says about Shvat. Okay? Bnei Yissaschar. He is the nephew of Rabbi Elimelech of Lizensk. He was called Tzvi Elimelech of Dinov, one of the most prolific Hasidic writers. And his books are very, very widely studied. Okay, so he says like that. He always starts out every month with a little discussion about the spiritual essence of that month. So he says like this. You know that there's a different name of Hashem that radiates each month. You know where you see that? If you daven Musaf on Rosh Chodesh, women are supposed to make special effort to join things on, do things on Rosh Chodesh, right? When you say Baruch Atah Hashem, not to do things, right? So in the Musaf there is a reference to in the final bracha of the middle part of the Shemona Esrei. Every time you're supposed to think about Baruch Atah Hashem in one of 12 different permutations. Letters are switched in order, the Yud K and Vav K in various combinations, and the vowels, both the vowels and the letters switch. Here, in the month of Shvat, the permutation is Hey, Yud, Vav, Hey. It's based on a pasuk in Vayikra, Hamer Yamirenu V'Hayahu. This is when you try to take an animal and transfer the Kedusha over to another animal. You know what happens? Both animals end up holy. You can't take off Kedusha so easily. It requires a pidyon of some kind. But just to try and switch something without payment doesn't happen. V'im yirtza Hashem yidav. So he says, like, it goes back to the basic book of Kabbalah, the foundation book of Kabbalah, Sefer Yetzirah, attributed to Amar Avinu. He says like this: the letter of the Aleph Beis that's relevant to this month is the letter Tzadik. Tzadik is Shvat. Shvat is Tzadikim. The physical activity is feeding. What do they say about Esav? Haliteni na me'adam. Yaakov feeds Esav like you feed a camel. Feeding, deep feeding. Really pouring, because this astrological month is what? Dali, which is the water bearer, which is the simon is to pour water. So pouring food and pouring water. That's the analogy. And then the Sefer Yetzirah says it's the constellation Aquarius, which is the Dali, the water bearer, the bucket. Okay. And then he explains that even though Ein Mazel Yisrael, even though the Jewish people can always, like we just said, take a bad situation, just like with Paro. Ru'u ki ra'a negab. See that mazel? It's against you. You're never stuck. With Hashem, being the Eved Hashem, you can transform the mazel any which way. But we do have a birth mazel, believe it or not. And our birth mazel is this month, Shvat. The Jewish people are all Aquarians. So when you say, Lahavdil, the age of Aquarius, what are you really saying? The age of the Jewish people. Now you can understand that because of many reasons, but the typical sign, this sign represents a person who is inquisitive, independent, not going along with the flow, questioning, and very intellectual, and bringing innovation and the future to the world, bringing a knowledge. So what are we pouring? We're pouring the Torah, which is nimshal to mayim. That's what the Bnei Yissaschar says. What is our job? A water bearer is not a very high level position, would you say? Right? Who gets the job as a water bearer? An Eved, a slave. Go bring me water. But the Avos were all water bearers. Where do we meet where do the Avos get their shidduchim from? From the well. Who goes down to bear the water? And that's what the Bnei Yissaschar says. Incredibly, he says, if you understand it, the first Jewish birth had to center around whether the girl could be a water bearer or not. You get it? And feed even who? Not just the house of Avram, but even the camels, even people who are half kosher. Get it? Half kosher. Like half the name of Hashem by Amalek, and half the kisei of Hashem. The Gamal is kosher in what way? It chews its cud. But split hooves it doesn't have. And just the Amalek is the other way around. It's got the split hooves, but it doesn't chew its cud. You put a camel and a pig together, camel and a chazir represent two rivals in the world, but barely even rivals. camel represents Yishmael, and the Chazir represents Esav. That's correct. And we have to give them water. We have to give them water. Then you see that Amalek is all about the external. It's all about the masquerade. It's all about the mask. It's all a show. It's all a show. Internally, they'll say, oh, we're so righteous and we're so kind and we believe in rights. And, we have to help people and chesed. But the reality is it's all in self-service. It's all in chesed lu'umim chatat. Until they learn how to be an Eved Hashem. And that's our job to teach them to do that. So this is the Bnei Yissaschar. Eliezer, the servant of Avram, he was called Damesek Eliezer. Why? Because he was Dolel Mashke. He poured the teachings of Avram out into the world. And therefore, that's why even Moshe Rabbeinu, where does he find his wife? By the well. And now, I'll add one thing to the Bnei Yissaschar. Bnei Yissaschar points out that in Devarim it says that Moshe Rabbeinu, the last 7 weeks of his life, began to teach the entire book of Mishnah Torah. The book of Devarim was only 7 days. L'havdil of Avdallah. Sometimes things happen in a very short, compact period of time, but have humongous significance. Do you know that they've been speaking about recently they discovered that in 3 months of 1942, most of the Jews died, most of the 6 million were killed. It's impossible to understand. There was a gzeira in that year that was carried out in a period of 3 months. And the killing reached its complete apex. It was never that much before and will never be that much again. So sometimes we're given a shefa in a short period of time, and we're given a punishment in a short period of time. 1942. Which 3 months, I'm not sure. It may have been probably in the spring or the summer. Makes sense. Probably around Tisha B'Av, I would imagine. But that was a turning point. By the way, it is historically known, and I've spoken to you about this, that the turning point of the war was Shivasar B'Tammuz, was Elul, after Tisha B'Av of 1942. Tisha B'Av of 1942 was the worst, and from there it started to improve, because the Germans started to lose. At that point, they won until that point everything, and after that point, they won nothing. Right. That was at the very end. They did, but the whole Hungarian Jews was 100,000, not 6 million. They killed 100,000 Hungarian Jews. That's nothing compared to what they did in 1942. They killed maybe 2 or 3 million in the space of several months. This is what the people are talking about. Historians are talking about now. Okay, we're just going to conclude with this. Holocaust historians have been talking about evidence that they found about how the killings took place, that they were compacted in a huge amount into 1942. The majority may have died of the 6 million in 1942. Finally, one point in the Bnei Yissaschar, he says that the tribe, every month has a tribe associated with it, because what's that? Ein Mazel Yisrael. Our job is to transform that mazel into what? Service of Hashem. Take your reality and turn it into the service of Hashem. So he says, Asher Shmeina Lachmo. Asher is where there's olive oil. The Gemara speaks about the incredible volume of olive oil that these regions produce. It's in the north. Asher is towards the north, Galilee area.
And that's where they're finding the oil.
That's right.
Today.
Oh, yeah. Among other things. Right. Yes. Off the coast. Yeah, that's also true. So it says, V'tovel b'shemen raglo. Shemen zayit is chachma. Where the Gemara Menachos says, you want children that will be tamid chachamim, light oil candles in your home. Because oil, like the oil of menorah, represents chachma, the Torah, giving over the Torah. He says that's the connection. That the pouring of oil and the pouring of water is the same idea, sharing the wisdom of the Torah. And therefore, the idea of serving Hashem as an Eved is what is established, and that's the essence of Klal Yisrael. I had one last question. Can we have time for one last question? I want to tell you something amazing. If you looked at the structure in last week's parsha, we have the mitzvah of Karban Pesach, right? Last week's parsha. We get all the laws of Karban Pesach, right? And then something happens. Makas Bechoros, right? Karban Pesach, and then comes Makas Bechoros. Paroah in pajama in the middle of the night, right? Paroah goes running and looking for Moshe, and they're all playing games with them, telling him, go to that house, right? Makas Bechoros happens, and then Hashem says, go. Vayisa'u b'nei Yisrael mi Ramses. Now, 1 second. Beshalach is not the first place in the Torah where the Jews leave Egypt. The real story of leaving Egypt happens before. Right. Beshalach Paro Sa'am is talking about a few days later, 2 or 3 days into the journey, when they realized, the Jewish people, they said, what did we just do? But on the very first day, they miraculously traveled from Ramses to Sukkos, a journey of 120 miles in 1 day. It was like Kfitza Derech, like we spoke about. But why? Because the Jews, as Avdei Hashem, were completely in the miraculous mode. Okay, and then what happens? V'gam erev rav Allah itam. And then the Torah launches into another set of mitzvos, which are incredible. It says, you want to eat the Karban Pesach? They're going to have to undergo what? Bris Milah. It says, got to have a Bris Milah. Torah achas yel ezrach. Why is this parsha here? It should have been in the instructions before Makas Bechoros, right? Okay. Why didn't we get this rule of the Karban Pesach when the rules were given out? The answer is very simple. When the Jewish people start to leave and everybody sees that everybody wants to join. They didn't want to join when they were doing the Karban Pesach. In fact, the Medrash says an amazing thing. Many Jews didn't want to do it because they didn't want to have a bris milah. They said, very nice, we'll run after Hashem, but don't ask me any personal sacrifice here. Don't say, I'm not an Eved that's going to have to do whatever my master tells me to do. I'm not going that far. So what did Moshe, the Medrash says, incredible thing, that the smell of Moshe's Karban Pesach was so tempting, like the bowerbird. Tempting. It was such a smell that they all were salivating. Please give us some of that incredible food. And says, okay, we have just one little thing that you got to do. That's called the bris milah. And they did it. Many of them did it. Not all of them. 80% were left behind, according to many. Chamushim, some say a lot less than 80%. Like 1 out of 500, which would be around 2%. We're not going to say like that. But now all these people come running after Klal Yisrael. They're out of Egypt. They come running to the desert, and Moshe Rabbeinu says, okay, we'll take you. But what do you have to do? You have to learn how to be an Eved HaMeshamesh Yisrabo. You have to follow the Dali. You have to be a water bearer of Hashem. That's all we are. We're water bearers of Torah. To teach, to share, to the Gemalim, and to the other types out there. And that's why this parsha is here. When Klal Yisrael's at the top of their game, then we influence many other people. It's been said many times by the great Rebbes, even of our generation, of previous generations, those Rebbes inspire what? Many converts. By Lubavitch, you know how many converts there are? By Breslov, you know how many converts there are? Well, they come running around. Even by Shlomo Karbach and people like that, tons of converts. Why? Because they see the divinity, they smell the beautiful smell of the Karban Pesach, of those Gedolim, and they say, I want in. They say, okay, just have to learn. And that, to conclude, that's what the Rabbi Yaacov says. The 3 mitzvahs the Jewish people never violated Mitzrayim was Nida. They were never adulterous, okay? And they circumcised their children, some of them, and it said that was all related to Dam. What do they put on the doorpost? What do they put on the doorpost in order to leave Mitzrayim? The Dam. What does it really represent? Be an Eved, HaMeshamish. I'm a slave. I did the Bris Milah. I did the Karban Pesach. I'm willing to be the slave. Those are the people who be Zochah to go out of Mitzrayim.